Welcome to Alternative Egypt, the channel that gives a voice to the myths and legends of our ancient ancestors. We appreciate you leaving a comment on our videos, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more alternative views on our ancient past.
Some of the most profound discoveries are not made by finding something entirely new, but by realizing that two completely different pieces of evidence are quietly telling different parts of the same story. Within the Great Pyramid of Giza, there are four narrow shafts, each about 8 inches square, that cut through the body of the monument, and each is inclined at their own particular angle. The traditional view of these enigmatic features is that they served as symbolic conduits, enabling the deceased king's soul to ascend into the heavens and join the eternal stars. Each shaft is thought to have targeted a different star that held religious significance for the ancient Egyptians, with no coherent relationship or underlying connection between any of them. Just 4 individual shafts, pointing at 4 individual stars. But as we shall see, that orthodox view may very well be wrong, and that these 4 shafts may contain a quite remarkable, yet hidden truth. In the previous episode of this documentary series, we examined one set of the Great Pyramid's star shafts, and found evidence that appears to encode an Earth crust displacement event. To the ancient ground-based astronomers observing the stars, this event would have appeared as an apparent shift of 84 degrees, this being the apparent movement of Al-Nitak, their reference star, as observed from Giza. But here is where things become much more interesting. That apparent 84-degree stellar movement of Al-Nitak does not necessarily represent the full geographic excursion of Giza. And that's because Giza would not simply have moved 84 degrees southwards within the same geographic quadrant of the Earth. Instead, in this model, Giza would have crossed the Earth's southern polar region and emerged into the Earth quadrant opposite its original geographic location. In other words, the apparent celestial movement of 84 degrees recorded by the ancient observers and built into the first pair of star shafts translates into a much greater movement of the Earth's crust, 156 degrees. Remarkably, this stellar shift appears to be confirmed by the Great Giza Circle, which, when treated as a cross-section view of the Earth, shows the 2 sets of satellite pyramids pinpointing the locations of 30 degrees north and 54 degrees south. And this is where the ground plan becomes particularly interesting. For not only do the satellite pyramids mark these 2 Earth locations on the ground at Giza, but, as we saw in our previous video, they have been placed in such a way as to become inverted to each other. And that would have been a fundamental observation by the ancient astronomers, because if Giza swaps hemispheres, then the 3 stars of Orion's belt would also appear to invert their relationship from one geographic location to the other. But it's not just on the ground that we observe this flipping motion of the belt stars. Remarkably, this very same phenomenon is also present within the Great Pyramid's star shafts. Here we observe the 2 sets of star shafts. Notice how the trajectories of the shafts on the left side, the southern shafts, are straightforward as they project out into the sky. But now look at the star shafts on the right side, the northern shafts. Here we can quickly observe that the trajectories of these shafts cross over one another. It's almost as though the shafts are saying, what once was up is now down, and what was once down is now up. The very characteristic of an inversion event presented in the star shafts and also in the satellite pyramids. The Giza ground plan, through its two sets of satellite pyramids anchored on the Great Giza Circle, appears to show only two positions for Giza: 30 degrees north and 54 degrees south. This suggests that Giza may have oscillated back and forth between these two locations during the shift event. If so, then the outward shift should also have been 156 degrees, from 30 degrees north to 54 degrees south. And if the motion occurred back and forth between these two Earth locations, then the displacement should naturally remain the same, 156 degrees. So what does the second pairing of star shafts tell us? And this is where our story becomes really interesting, because the second shaft pairing gives us something completely unexpected. During the initial outward shift, the ancient astronomers would likely have watched in horror as Al-Nitak appeared to fall rapidly from an altitude of 39 degrees in the northern sky, eventually disappearing below the Giza horizon. To an ancient observer, such a dramatic celestial event might have seemed like the death of Osiris himself, the Egyptian god whose identity was closely associated with Orion. But after a period of time, something extraordinary would have happened. Al-Nitak would reappear above the opposite horizon, rising rapidly to an altitude of 33 degrees in the northern sky. Osiris had seemingly been reborn. But there is an important distinction here. Al-Nitak was not reappearing in the northern sky of the northern hemisphere. It was appearing in the northern sky of the southern hemisphere. The Great Pyramid itself is fixed in one hemisphere, the northern. Yet its four star shafts appear to depict the motion of Al-Nitak across both hemispheres, with each cross-pairing of shafts recording the apparent angular distance traveled from one hemisphere to the other and back again. In this case, Al-Nitak would now climb to an altitude of approximately 33 degrees in the northern sky of the southern hemisphere, where it would stay for a period of time and remain subject to the normal motions of the earth and heavens. Is it any wonder that the ancient Egyptians regarded Osiris as the god of rebirth and resurrection? So we have Al-Nitak falling from 39 degrees in one hemisphere and reappearing in the opposite hemisphere, where it rises to 33 degrees, which gives us an apparent shift of 39 degrees plus 33 degrees equals 72 degrees. But here we stumble into a problem. The other shaft pairing gives us 84 degrees. If both pairings were recording the same displacement, we might reasonably expect them to both produce the same value, but they do not. And when we map this 72-degree apparent celestial displacement onto the Earth, beginning at Giza's present latitude of 30 degrees north, we arrive at 42 degrees south. Yet the other shaft pairing and the Giza ground plan give us 54 degrees south. At first, the numbers simply do not add up. We appear to have two different southern locations for Giza, 42 degrees south and 54 degrees south. It is almost as though Giza somehow occupied two locations at once, 54 degrees south according to the ground plan and first star shaft pair, but 42 degrees south according to the second pair of shafts. At this point, it would have been tempting to conclude that the entire Earth inversion hypothesis had simply failed. The shaft pairings were producing contradictory results where there should have been none. But, as we know, appearances can be deceptive, particularly when observations of the sky are being translated into positions on the Earth. And here, another remarkable clue enters the story. When we examine the geometry of the three Great Pyramids, one of the most obvious angular relationships is the line running through their centers. With Khafre at the center, a line extended through the centers of the Great Pyramid and Menkaure produces an astonishing result: 168 degrees. The very same angle apparently encoded by the shaft pairing that produced the 42-degree southern location. Could this just be simple coincidence? Perhaps, but the situation becomes even more intriguing when we consider the position of Khafre itself. Investigations of the Giza Plateau over the past 2 centuries have noted features suggesting that Khafre's pyramid may originally have been intended for a slightly different position on the plateau. And, as we showed in a previous video, Khafre also appears to have been offset from the ground position corresponding to its belt star counterpart, Al-Nilam. If Khafre was deliberately relocated, then that relocation would have altered the angular relationship between the centers of the 3 main pyramids. This is to say that, had Khafre's pyramid remained at the position corresponding to the belt star Al-Nilam, the resulting angle would have been different, around 171 degrees, not 168 degrees. As such, the 168-degree angular separation we find today in the main pyramid arrangement may not be a coincidence at all. It may have been deliberately created as a kind of signpost. But a signpost for what? We now have 2 numbers, 156 degrees in the first set of star shafts we examined, and also in the Giza ground plan via the locations of the 2 sets of satellite pyramids. And we have 168 degrees encoded into the main pyramid alignment, and also in the second set of star shafts. The 2 values are separated by exactly 12 degrees. It is almost as though something has added 12 degrees to the 156-degree displacement, but observed only in one of the 2 apparent shifts. What could possibly account for that? And why would it affect only the outward shaft pairing but not the return set? This brings us to what may be the most important part of this investigation. Imagine that the Earth's crust is not the only thing moving during the shift event. Imagine that the deeper Earth beneath the crust, the internal main body of the Earth associated with the pole and equator, also shifts, but by a much smaller amount. Not 156 degrees, just 12 degrees. And importantly, these 2 movements do not have to occur one after another. They could occur simultaneously. The large movement is the movement of the crust, the outer reference frame. The smaller movement is a movement of the Earth's inner body, the internal reference frame. If both are moving, then what an observer on the surface measures is not simply the movement of one object. It is the relationship between 2 moving reference frames. And suddenly, the Giza paradox has a possible solution. During the initial outward shift event, the Earth's outer crust, or lithosphere, having been decoupled from the deep main body of the Earth, what we will call the sublithosphere, moves through 168 degrees north to south in a clockwise direction, while the sublithosphere, the main Earth body and equator, shifts 12 degrees also north to south, but in a counterclockwise direction. Given this, then Giza effectively rotates just 156 degrees, but because the Earth's equator is also shifting simultaneously by 12 degrees, to a ground-based observer, the shift would appear to be 168 degrees. That is 156 degrees plus 12 degrees. And that is what the first set of star shafts within the Great Pyramid appear to show us. With Giza initially at 30 degrees north of the equator, it ends up at 42 degrees south of it, in the opposite Earth quadrant, an apparent ground shift of 168 degrees. When Giza, from its displaced location of 42 degrees south, returns to 30 degrees north, both outer and inner movements go in reverse, and what had been an apparent shift of 168 degrees now unwinds to become an apparent shift of just 156 degrees, with Giza now returned to 30 degrees north.
We now see that the Earth location that previously had been 42 degrees south, as a result of the equator having shifted back to its original location, now becomes 54 degrees south. And that apparent shift of 156 degrees is once again exactly what the ancient astronomers appear to have observed in the ancient sky and recorded in the second set of star shafts. Terrestrial shift matches stellar shift. Ground matches sky, precisely.
It is not the intention of this series to explain the mechanism by which such a pole shift event could have occurred in our ancient past. That is beyond the scope of this investigation. We began with something much simpler: the many accounts preserved across the ancient world describing just such an extraordinary catastrophe in Earth's past. Our modern science tells us that an Earth inversion event of the kind described in these ancient accounts is extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, within our current understanding of physics and of our planet's rotational mechanics. But should that automatically mean that the ancient accounts can simply be dismissed as myth? When we consider the remarkable similarities between these traditions separated by vast geographical distances, together with the physical and astronomical evidence examined throughout this series, perhaps the question deserves much more serious consideration. Perhaps our ancestors were not simply inventing stories or imagining things. Perhaps they were attempting to preserve the memory of an extraordinary event they had actually witnessed. And perhaps the problem is not that our ancestors were wrong, but that our modern understanding of the Earth's rotational and orbital mechanics is still missing some critical piece of the puzzle. If so, then instead of dismissing these ancient testimonies as mere myths and legends, perhaps we should approach them with a little more humility and investigate more deeply. Because the question may be far more important than it first appears. Did our planet once undergo a catastrophic transformation that modern science has yet to fully understand? And if so, will it do so again?
This video presentation is based on the research of independent author and researcher Scott Crichton. His books are available on Amazon.com and from all good bookstores.